Yesterday we discussed how we can accomplish this bhavana jnana with the suitabilities, sabbaya kriya sampadeti, by working suitably, both from the theoretical and practical aspects, and there were 7 suitabilities. And we discussed the headings one by one briefly. We have also covered avasa sabbaya, suitability of location or accommodation, gochara sabbaya, suitability of the thought, and bhasa sabbaya, suitability of speech. Regarding this last one, suitability of speech, there's much to talk about. Speech, suitable speech, means not speaking anything contrary to path and fruition knowledge. Only indulging in speech concerning the Dhamma, the practice. And when 2 yogis meet each other, for some reason, they can talk about Dhamma Katha, talk about the Dhamma. Otherwise, practice this Riyova Tunibhavo, practice noble silence. And about this noble silence also, there's much to talk about. But this will be discussed in later days when there is occasion to talk about this subject. How one can, the kind of attitude one has regarding the sasana. If we deal with this subject, then we will not come to this main topic of the right path leading to the right destination. So today, in accordance with the list, we come to this Pogala Sabbaya, suitability of person. Today we shall go on to this suitability of person, Pogala Sabbaya. Regarding this matter, there are 2 kinds of persons, individuals. At this point, we may take these 2 kinds of individuals. One is the Sabrahmachari, that is the fellow yogis, fellow practitioners. And secondly, we can take this Acharya, meditation teachers. The text has given this Pogala Sabbaya as those people who are not contrary to path and fruition knowledge, not to indulge in worldly conversation. Such kind of persons are considered as Pogala. And in accordance with the text, is Katha Votu, something conversation concerning the Dhamma. As for the practitioners, Satiprana practitioners, they can indulge in speech concerning the practice of meditation, such as the 3 trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, or the 8-fold paths, which is Dhammikata, and the quality, those persons who possess the qualities of Sila and so on, morality and so on, moral, virtuous persons. And here we can take the Pogala person as 2 kinds of persons, namely the fellow practitioners and meditation teachers. When somebody is dependent upon to undertake the practice in order to stabilize the mind, concentrate the mind, if the mind is not yet concentrated, and if the mind is already concentrated, in order to deepen its concentration so that the mind becomes steadfast, such a person can be said to be a sabbaya, suitable person, or suitable guide, or suitable teacher. Otherwise, if one is talking about other things other than the practice, contrary to path and fruition knowledge, then such a person can be said to be not unsuitable, as sabbaya. Like muddy water. When clear water is mixed with muddy water, then the clear water will become turbid, muddy. If one depends on such a person, then one will not be able to concentrate one's mind if the mind is not yet concentrated, And if the mind is concentrated, it will be difficult to deepen this concentration. And if the insight has not been arisen, cultivated, then one will not be able to cultivate insight. And if one has already started to cultivate insight, one will not be able to strengthen, deepen this insight. So such a person has to be abstained. One should avoid such people. However, though the teachers may give guidance to the yogis in accordance with desana expositions, if the yogis cannot cultivate because of their own fault, if they cannot cultivate concentration and insight, then of course you cannot blame the teachers for this. You have to take the views from both sides, both angles, with the power of reason, not just one-sided view. To put all the blame on the teacher because of one's fault. So one has got to consider fair in a fair way from both sides. In this connection, and the Anguttara Nikaya has been given this subject known as Kalyana Metta, good companion, a good friend. One needs to associate with such a friend. What is a good friend? How can we understand that such a person is a good companion? It is necessary to know this. The expression is quite beautiful, Kalyana Metta. That means a good companion, not a pretender. And one should be able to choose this good companion or good friend. And there are 7 qualifications as has been given in the text. And the Buddha has said this, Piyo Guru Bhavaniyo. First of all, Piyo, dear person, likable person, lovable person, affable. Not in terms of the sexual, or not in terms of worldly attachment, but just a likable, lovable person. In terms of acts of generosity, if a person is generous, or a person is giving service to others, or having in possession of good conduct, then such a person will become affable, will possess an affable character. And just try to behave in this way, that is, give away material things with good intentions, or give service with good intentions, or possess good conduct such as the 5 precepts, Parida Sila, or Achara, Charita Sila. If you can possess such basic conduct, then automatically people will come to love you, become dear to you. You don't have to request or ask them to love you. So such kind of assistance, such kind of service, especially in the possession of moral conduct, can make one person a lovable, a dear, likable person, which is very important. And if one wishes to be loved or liked by the society, one has to practice in order to come to this stage, such as giving assistance in terms of material, or in terms of service, or possessing basic moral conduct. The next quality that should be possessed by a Kalyana Metta, a good companion, a good friend, is Guru or Guru, respectable quality, commanding respect. This quality is higher than the first quality. That is, one has to be a concentrated mind and possess knowledge in all aspects. One should be able to command respect. And the third quality, which has to be possessed by a Kalyana Metta, good companion, is Bhavaniya. That is, one has to become an object of loving kindness. That means one should be able to be the object of loving kindness. He should be loved by others. One should be the person, object to whom others will wish for his or her freedom from harm, freedom from mental distress, physical pain, and be able to carry on with his or her life without any harm. So, and also wishing, the majority will wish him or her to be able to serve for the many, for the benefit of the many. So such a person, an object of metta meditation. There should be that kind of person. And if a person possesses the first two qualities, then automatically the third one will become fulfilled with a third kind of quality. If one is able to have metta towards others, then one will be able to have patience. One will be able to forgive others for their faults, for others' faults, and will also give guidance. If others are able to cultivate their physical, verbal, mental behaviors, he or she will be glad, happy. And in order that he or she may be loved and respected by others, he or she will possess metta, karuna, mudita, loving kindness, compassion, and sympathetic joy, so that one will always give guidance or teaching to others if others need help. And such a person will do it without any expectation of material reward. And such a quality is known as vatta. One needs to teaching others, giving guidance to others if others are not doing correctly. So if one is practicing in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha, one will also be able to give guidance to others, teach others to be likewise. So it's not enough that one person is good. The society has to be good. So one has to cultivate the lives of others so that one can create a peaceful society and thus a peaceful world. So if anything wrong is going on, then one should not just look at it with folded arms, especially in the arena of the Dhamma practice. One should be able to give guidance. And another quality is vachanakama, that is suffering speech, not only giving speech but suffer speech. Suffer speech means if other people, even however young they may be, even one's own students, if they see something wrong in oneself and in this teacher, that the teacher is doing something wrong, and others give some, they give them, warn him not to commit such things, and let him know that such a thing should not be done. Then one should be able to suffer speech. One should be able to tolerate such guidance from others. Not that one should be giving orders to others or giving guidance to others, teaching others, but one should also be able to be taught and given guidance by others. In this way, one should be free of pride and conceit. Even if another person or other persons are younger than you, or inferior person, if they point out mistakes, then you should be able to tolerate, listen, and accept such guidance. This is also very important. And the sixth quality is Gambirancha Katankata. That means such a person, that is the Kalyanamitta, good companion, should be able to give profound Dhamma, profound speech regarding the Dhamma, the practice. And from the aspect of these practicing yogis, such a talk is concerned with the Vipassana, in order how to cultivate the Vipassana jhana, Vipassana absorption, by noting, by aiming, taking an aim at the object, focusing, so that the noting mind is sustained on the object of attention. In this way, one is applying this jhanic factor in a careful way, dedicated to the practice, noting, sustaining mindfulness so as to deepen the concentration. When the mind becomes one-pointed, one is able to cultivate knowledge, insight knowledge, beginning with the discernment of mind and body, until one reaches the maturity of liberating wisdom, seeing the path and fruition knowledge of the noble ones. Such kind of talk is what is meant by the profound speech, profound Dhamma talk, and talks concerning the Four Noble Truths, and talks concerning Paticca Samuppada, the doctrine of dependent origination or dependent arising, and the 37 factors of enlightenment, in which the four Satipatthana, fourfold mindfulness, has been mentioned, and one should be able to deal with such subjects. One should be able to talk about these profound dhammas, not just from the theoretical aspect, but also to be able to interpret in terms of from the practical aspects, such as such and such a thing is said, what is said in the books. This is a literary sense, and when this literary sense is translated into practice, such a thing happens, and such a thing is the consequence, is the result. In this way, one should be able to give speech, profound speech like this, which is very important also. Such are the qualities to be possessed by a person known as Kalyana Mitta, good companion, good friend. And if one possesses such qualities, then one will wish for the progress of others, progress for the prosperity of oneself. One will understand the prosperity of both for oneself and others. And one will not wish for others to suffer. Instead, one will wish others to progress and prosper. Such persons are known as real Kalyana Mitta, good friend, good companion, and such is what is meant by the suitability of person, Pukkala Sapaya. And such a person should be dependent upon. One should approach such persons. And it is said in the text that even if, for some reason, if that person, Kalyana Mitta, drives you away, you should not go away. You should stay with him or her until last moment, and not go away. However, if one does not possess enough moral conduct and has not cultivated one's mind and insight to maturity, then such a person will be in possession of very immature mind, and if one's mind is immature, then one will be very sensitive. And if there is something disappointing, something unsatisfactory, there's something, one comes into contact with a difficult situation or unsatisfactory situations, one will react at once. So we have to be very careful about such persons. So it is necessary to develop the mentality of such persons, so that from smallness of mind to enlarged mind. And if one has not cultivated knowledge, one should be guided in order to develop his or her mind or insight, knowledge, so that it becomes matured. So we have to take time in order to develop both the intellectual reasoning and the power of practice, Patisakana Bala and Bhavana Bala. Sometimes we have to praise them, and instead of blaming them, if you blame them, they may get upset, and yogis might, such yogis, because they are sensitive, they might back up and go, leave the retreat. Okay, I'm going home, that sort of thing. So we have to be very careful about such sensitive persons. Even the Buddha who possesses the Satyuta Jnana, omniscient knowledge, gives a Dhamma in two ways. That is, Dhamma has to be, what he teaches has to be beneficial and correct, these two things. These are the two qualities of his speech, of his discourse. Such is a quality given as Sugata for the Buddha. And at times, the Buddha has to praise the disciples if it is beneficial for them. At other times, he has to run them down, blame them, and if such blame will be helpful for them to gain insight. Like in the case of giving medicines to the patients, sometimes the medicine is sweet because it is sugar-coated and it's nice to swallow, nice to take. At other times the medicine may not be sweet, it may be very bitter, but if the medicine is effective for the patient, then the patient has to take this bitter medicine, although he or she doesn't like it. So is with the Dhamma discourses given by the Buddha or others. Even the Buddha has to bid time in such cases. Bidding time so that the listener, the disciple, will become matured in terms of, say, Patisakana Bala, intellectual reasoning. When his reasoning power becomes developed, then such a person will be able to receive the teachings. So, Sayadaw says, we are not like Buddha, who is in possession of the omniscient knowledge, Savyuta Jnana. So he is not as capable as the Buddha himself. However, the Buddha has tamed many listeners, many disciples to gain insight. And so he has to copy some examples in its own right to some extent. At times, although the examples, the methods used by the Buddha has been copied and used, sometimes it did not work out. So in that case, he has to be tolerant, he has to be patient. So if both sides are patient, then it's good. Then the practice is bound to bring about good result. Even Buddha sometimes has to suffer, because when the Buddha came across somebody who had not in good attitude in a crowd, he might be just criticized, be the object of anger or ill will. Instance was this one monk had a lot of ropes with him, and the rule of discipline is that one should be content with such 3 ropes and a bow. So when the Buddha pointed out such admonishment, this monk took off all the ropes. He took off his ropes, saying that, I will take off everything. I won't wear anything, that sort of thing. So such a thing has sometimes happened in a crowd, even for the Buddha sometimes. And also there are cases of Buddha being blamed by his own disciples because the Buddha laid down many disciplinary rules, many rules of discipline, or disciplinary conduct, so that it's very difficult to move even. So, the Buddha says, don't do this, don't do that, many don'ts, more don'ts than do's. So, it's better that one dies instead of listening to him, that sort of thing. So, he becomes a subject of criticism in this way. Of course, now in this retreat, such things are rare. When Sayadaw was on his Dhamma tour abroad, also when he was talking about Satipatthana as being ekayano, one way, one of the meditation teachers said, I cannot accept this one way thing. There cannot be just one way. There must be other ways. And other people have other ways. How can you say there's only one way? That is Satipatthana way. So if you, there are many things that I like of you, but this aspect cannot be accepted. It's not acceptable. Just saying that there's only one way, one Satipatthana way. So for this, I'm going to leave the retreat. So he did so. So sometimes when the teacher says bluntly, yogis will not like it. They will react at once. So even the Buddha had to suffer such criticism, not to mention people like Sayadaw. So Sayadaw has to be very careful when in situations like this. So instead of, he has to change his tune. Instead of saying one way, one and only way of Satipatthana, he says sure way. Then it sounds good. Nobody complained. So he thought, well, not bad. Well, that's much about Kalyana Metta, good companion, good friend. There is much to talk about. However, we stop at this stage about this subject and only pick it up when occasion arises at a later date. So we go on to next suitability, namely Bhojana Sappaya, the suitability of food and drinks. Some like sweet, some like sour, and so on. So the dining staff, the meal staff, those who prepare the meals, are preparing 4 or 5 kinds to suit 4 or 5 days. So they should be good enough. And Sayadaw says he hopes that they will suit majority of people, if not all. And as regards Uddusapaya, the suitability of climate, some like cool weather, cool climate, some like warmth. So his suggestion is to adjust yourself. For instance, in this hall, you use fans, but some you may like fan. Some may like fan, some others don't. So you have to be careful when you're putting on this fan. You have to look around and see whether your companion or your fellow practitioner likes the fan or not. Even if you wish to do, of course there are many wishes that you want to do. You can keep it in your mind. So you have to consider whether it is appropriate or not, or whether you can do it or not. So if it's appropriate and you can do it, then do it. So long as you can satisfy yourself and will not do any harm to others, it is okay. So here, if the Vajana and Uddusapaya, suitability of these 2 things, food and drink, and weather, climatic conditions, if you find them as satisfactory, if you're able to concentrate your mind, if the mind is not yet concentrated, and if the mind is already concentrated, you can deepen it more and more. And if the knowledge which has not been cultivated is cultivated, and if the knowledge which has blossomed has blossomed more and more, then you can say that these 2 things, suitability, these 2 factors, namely Bhojana, food and drink, and Uddu, weather conditions, are said to be suitable. When you are in a crowd, living with others, You cannot just do according to your, just for one person's wish. You got to see whether it is appropriate and whether it is. You got to see whether it is appropriate and whether it is. You got to see whether it is appropriate